Welcome again to Beyond the Talking Points. Josh Jennings and Mayor Jane Dawkins for be doing our first segment with us. Well, we appreciate you coming in and saying hello.
It's hot outside.
It is hot outside. It is hot outside.
Miserably hot.
Ooh, this is like old home week, though.
Well, that's true. I tell you, I had a service today, and it felt like it's 105 degrees outside.
Well, but you gotta wear a suit outside.
That's true. That's true. Did you boys know when I was in high school, South Pittsburg High School, I graduated in 71, and so it was somewhere along those years that I actually did the high school news on WEPG.
Did you really?
Yeah, every
not know
week.
that.
It was a little thing called Happenings on the Hill, and I would come down and do the high school news for South Pittsburg High School at WPG. Of course, it was the other location then.
Yeah.
But so I've been hanging out at the radio station for a long time.
So you a fixture?
Yeah.
You've been
Fixture,
doing
yeah.
news all fixtures, haven't you?
Yeah, and 14 years of doing our recipes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I took a break from it for a few years, and we've started back. Did you know that, Dave?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know, Josh. On Wednesday mornings at 9 o'clock, the boys call me during swap and shop, and I give a recipe every week.
You know what? I did know that. I had forgotten.
I do.
What about that? I
It's
didn't know that.
strange to me why they don't call me, Jane.
Well, I don't know.
Well, it probably wouldn't be fit
Put
to
the
eat.
popcorn in the microwave in 3 minutes.
Right. And I try to.
There it is.
Of course, we
a great
sponsor.
recipe for good government.
Yeah,
There
that's
you go.
right. And
So
we
Wednesdays,
try
they
to
can tune in
kinda-
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays at 9 o'clock, kind of on the hour, they call me, and I have a recipe ready. And I try to kind of do it what's appropriate in the season. Like today, I gave 2 recipes, and one of them was for, yesterday, I'm sorry, lost today. One of them was for a barbecue rub, like a dry rub, and the other one was for wet barbecue sauce.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you were going to mop ribs or something of that nature. Because we figured with Father's Day coming up this weekend, and then you'll have the 4th of July in a couple of weeks and so on, that it was getting to be that
time.
season.
It is
Do you
time.
boys like to cook? Do you grill or smoke or anything?
No.
I like to cook. My problem is that my specialties is so narrow that if I have to cook more than 3 days in a row, there's a good chance we're about to repeat.
Well, I could say I'd like to cook, but we like to eat.
Yeah. Well, there's that. There's that.
And those two are mutually exclusive. You
There's
say.
that.
So you had a good cornbread festival.
Yes, we did.
Boy,
we
it was-
did.
Beth-
35,000
I
people.
know. Beth Duggar come
total.
down and told us a little bit about it, but I
Yeah.
saw you with Ricky Skaggs.
Yeah, I presented Ricky Skaggs with the key to the city.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was neat. Traditionally, the mayor is, whoever it is in charge of the Friday night kickoff ceremony, the opening ceremony. Well, this year we had a little something special. Dave knows about it, but we now have a South Pittsburg community chorus.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I may be the only mayor in Tennessee that has her own glee club. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But we just thought this would be a fun thing to do, to get together, and good for people. We have a lot of people, they're not all older, but some older people who used to sing, and they still sing well and enjoy singing, but they didn't have a choir or a group or a band or anybody to sing with.
Right.
And I sort of fell into that a little bit too. I was choral director for many, many years at the high school. I had a show choir and all those kind of things. And that sort of hit my place in life. So we've been kind of toying this around, and the late, great Suzanne Adcock, I know you guys knew her, and she was incredible. And she's been after me for years and years. Jane, you need to start a course here. You need to start a course. We need a community course, and on and on and on. And, you know, in church we sing that song, "A Charge to Keep I Have." Well, she put a charge on me.
So
and of
you-
course she passed away, and
Yeah.
miss her so. But she kind of put a charge on my heart that I really felt like I needed to give that an effort. And so we have a South Pittsburg Community Chorus, and the opening night of Cornbread, we did the national anthem.
Is that
We
right?
did, and then we did.
Are y'all performing any like monthly or
Well,
throughout the year?
we've just been doing special events.
Yeah.
What we started out with. I like to teach songs in sets, like folk songs, oldies songs, whatever. And so we learned a set of Southern gospel and a set of patriotic songs.
Oh, I bet
and these are things that we can get called. We were called on to sing. So we did the opening ceremony, and then we were asked to sing at the ecumenical service on Sunday morning that they have at Cornbread, and then on Sunday afternoon we sang at the Princess Theater, and we did the set of the Southern gospel as well as the patriotic things.
What about that?
So
You know, who is it in South Pittsburg that, I don't know if it was this year or last year I came to, it was a Christmas program at the Princess Theater, and it was singing. Was it First Baptist Church, maybe?
they have a beautiful program
That they do
each
at the
year.
Princess Theater?
Oh yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
It's
boy, that
good.
was great.
It's good.
Yeah, it was a good job. They did a
We've
great
had
job.
we've had the Choo Choo Singers. It's a barbershop group, but it's a big group.
Yeah.
We've had them there a couple of Christmases, and we kind of coupled it with the South Pittsburg Elementary School chorus. And I mean, we would pack the house.
Yeah,
of course,
I'm
everybody
sure
wants,
you did,
wants
yeah.
to come, hear the kids, and then this group's good. It's a big barbershop group from Chattanooga.
Wow.
And a lot of those guys are retired, but
A lot going on.
It's been interesting. Lots going on. Lots going on.
Good stuff.
I feel
Well,
like. Go
I
ahead.
had the chance at the National Day of Prayer. You all sang at
We
that
did.
as well, and that
We did.
I found myself. I was supposed to be working there,
Uh-huh.
and I found myself just listening to
Sitting
the.
back there.
It was like, oh yeah, I got to get back to work.
Oh me. Yeah, we actually that day they asked us to do a prayer song at the end, something about prayer or walking in prayer or whatever, and so we did have a little talk with Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
And we do some interesting arrangements of these things. Some of the group they'll do arrangements. I do some, and so on. And it was real funny. Paul Robinson. I don't know if y'all know Paul. He's a preacher at one of the local churches, and so on. And so we went through just the traditional rhythm of just a little talk with Jesus and so on. And then we repeated the chorus. And we kind of made it a little soulful and changed the rhythm. And it was real funny. I could see Paul out the side, and he was sitting over here with Isaiah, his son, who is a field rep for Dr. Desjardins.
Right.
And he was sitting there. And all of a sudden, I looked over at him, and his jaw dropped, and he turned at me like, "Where'd you learn that rhythm? Where did that come from?" But anyway, yeah,
Gotta give the people what they want.
yeah, we kind of filled in for Brother Ronnie that day. He had gotten sick and had a heart issue the day before, and that's usually his big event
Right,
down that he puts
right.
on. But it was very nice.
Yeah,
We enjoyed being part of it.
Well, it
Yeah.
was that, for some reason, that particular service that they have here at the bridge, I don't know how it happens, but always the right mix of people
It's good.
and the right mix of speakers and the right, it really is a reverent occasion. And like I said, I found myself a little wrapped up in it
Yeah,
rather
yeah,
than
it-
doing what I was supposed to be there.
It was neat. What they do, they'll have several ministers from the community.
Right.
And each one of those ministers has been asked to come up and say a prayer on a particular subject or group, like our schools, our emergency responders, our, just different things. And it's kind of all-encompassing,
Yeah.
as a National Day of Prayer really kind of should be.
Should be.
But yeah, I look forward to that each year. We've participated, well, as mayor, he's had me to participate, the last 3 years and so on. So,
Whether you want to be or not, you're usually going to get called for that one.
yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind to do anything like that. That's good.
One thing, while I've got you, obviously, the flooding events has captivated, South Pittsburgh.
And my whole term is
Yeah.
pretty much.
But
Pretty much.
now my understanding is there's been a little movement here lately.
Yesterday. Well, back up just a little bit. Of course, you all who are familiar with the area, we had a horrific flood on in July of 2013. I think it was July 10th of 2013, and it did millions of dollars worth of damage very quickly. We had 4 inches of rain in just a very short period of time.
Yep.
And then what happened, it was like a tsunami coming down the mountain.
Yeah.
Mountains, plural, all around. But it was like a tsunami of water that came down. And we had some close calls, but in that first flood, we did not have any loss of life. But then Christmas Day, this past Christmas Day, it happened again. And that's where, I'm in the kitchen cooking and kind of watching the weather and so on and saying, dear Lord, please don't let this happen to us again. But it did, and this time, unfortunately, we had loss of life.
Yeah.
We, after the first flood, we were able to do a few things. All these things are very expensive. You have to apply for funding. It's not something that you can just get a checkbook out and do.
And
we
going
were
through
able,
the legal hurdles, even if you could pay for it.
And the environmental hurdles. But we were able to shore up some of the ditches because erosion had gotten so bad. We had some houses that were close to the edge at this point. There's been so much erosion, and so we were able to shore up some of the major ditches, not just riprapping, but
Right.
it was a design. There was a design to it. We were able to do a little bit of that, and we saw where that did help some
Right.
with moving the water on out when this other one happened. But we had in the first flood, we had a bad thing to happen on Rostontown Road. Rostontown Road, if you're familiar with it, it's the one you go over, comes off of 2nd Street, excuse me, and you take a right to get to that road, and you go up and you'll pass the big water tower. It's on your left, and then not long after that, you go around a pretty good sized curve, and you can go straight to go into a subdivision, but you can go around to the left, which takes you to the other parts of Rostontown Mountain. And just right after that curve, that road underneath it washed out.
Yeah.
And it was the size of a cave.
Wow.
There were utilities running through it.
Oh, wow.
I mean, just all kinds of bad things.
It's perfect storm.
Bad things.
And it was down to one lane.
And the pavement, of course, had chipped off and fallen in some. And one of my best friends lives right in the house just right above there. And to see the pictures of the water coming down their driveway from the mountain was just unreal. Unreal. So that situation is one that you couldn't just pull out the big checkbook, and you had to have some major design work. That damage was not something that just your usual repair folks could go in and do, and a lot of those folks, local ones, said Miss Jane said, that's not something that we would be able to do, and so on.
It's not in our wheelhouse.
So we went through a period of time where we were just trying to get engineers to come look at the situation and give us come up with a possible design and give us an estimate and so on cost and all of this, and then find somebody who could fix it.
Right.
We hope it's going to be a fix. So all of this has taken the better part of 3 years. It ended up being a $300,000 project.
Wow.
I was really surprised that they could fix it for that, to be honest with you, because it was extensive.
They had to go deep.
It was extensive. Oh, they did. And, I mean, they had to extend themselves off the side of the road and be tied on with ropes to do the work. And you had all kinds of enforcement type things that they built in under the road that came out and so on. And so, make a long story short, Well, we were down to one lane. We had one lane that where we could get people off the mountain, but it was not a safe situation. I mean, right there at
Right.
the curve and so on. But thank goodness we didn't have any major accidents or anything there. And then we were able to, there a long time ago, on another part of the mountain, there was a road that the county owned, and it was used a long time ago. I don't know if it was used as a regular road to get up there or logging or whatever it was.
Right.
And so we had to go in and kind of make that road usable, because you had to shut the road down to
fix
do
it.
this project. So we had that extra road there. So they used that to get off the mountain, and then we closed this main road. But it hasn't been a real long time. It's just been a
Yeah.
few weeks, and these folks came down, and we had an engineering team, and then we had a construction team, and they came down and went right to work on it. And so they, I know there's a new culvert. I saw it. There's some new drains, like on the other side of the road, on the residential side of the road. There's some new drains put in. There's a large culvert. It's lots of concrete, lots of things in. But they actually got it finished this week and paved.
Oh, really?
And it looks to me like, reflecting on how the road used to be prior to the floods, that we at least gained enough space to have a guardrail. An added guardrail addition to the width of the road. I didn't measure it. I don't know. I was up there twice yesterday, but I can't tell you the width of it. But it looks like that we have at least gained to that. So we just hope and pray that this holds. We were able to secure. We were able to get grant money for about 190, and we've had to take a loan of the other $110,000.
Really
we
low
found,
interest.
we did through USDA.
Yeah.
We
Oh, really?
we were able to get a low interest loan. So like I said, we couldn't write the check, but we got enough at least
Not
to
a lot
get
of people could.
No,
Not a lot
at
of
least
cities,
that's right.
municipalities
At least to
could.
get it fixed, and we have a reasonable loan plan to pay for the rest of that. So that was the excitement yesterday.
Well, that's great.
And-
officially
and-
open?
and
Is it
Mary-
officially?
It's officially open. I stood
I
up
bet those
there.
people are happy.
I
coming
stood
off
up
that
there,
mountain.
and as people came, I spread my arm out like this, like it was follow the yellow brick road. I was just clowning around, but and there weren't a lot of people yesterday because I don't think the word got out till I put it on Facebook last night that it is officially open. But it is officially open, and I'm real proud for those people
Yeah.
that
I
they'll
would
now have their road back, and it be a stronger, better
Well,
road.
it just blew me away because I heard when it started, and then they were announcing it was done, and I was like,
done.
"There's no way.
It's-
There's no way."
It is just amazing the power of water
Yeah.
and how quickly it can destroy
I know.
just anything.
Absolutely.
It's just amazing to me.
Well, just in your house when you have a power
Well, let me
break or
tell you,
something, the damage is just
This
tremendous.
this past January, the one morning that it got down to 18, our sprinkler system at the funeral home froze and busted.
Oh,
Wow.
And in a matter of about 20 minutes, caused well over $150,000 worth of damage. Just that, I mean,
bad.
it finds the lowest, water is going to find the lowest spot.
To where you
and
can't
it
find
washes
it.
everything with it when it goes. So it's terrible. It's just unbelievable.
It is.
Now, I also, if you're able, one of the problems that South Pittsburg was wrestling with was actually getting a legitimate study done of how that water's coming off the mountains. And at one time, there had been, I believe it was a TEMA, Tennessee Emergency Management, had offered
Lot of
about a
personnel.
third of that pricing for the total study. Has any progress been made?
Well, there's been a lot of things happen and things, just trying to put it together. The deal is you have to have a plan when you're talking about stormwater mitigation. You have to have a plan before you can apply
Right.
for any funding at all.
Right.
So, and again, you have all of those hurdles that we talked about. The environmental hurdles, the what's going to work, what's not going to work. We have two ends of town with Richard City also,
Right.
subject to severe flooding, and then
'Cause
Midway,
Irondale Road
and
has
then
some problems
yes,
that
bad,
need to be
and
addressed.
and then of course the end that we've been talking about,
Sure.
the third streets and that sort of thing too. Well, even down here, Royal Remand, has had some issues, and so on. So what we put together, we put a flood mitigation task force together, and at our first meeting, were you at our first meeting?
I believe that
At
was
the theater.
February.
We had it at the theater.
Yeah, I think I was at the
we
first
had
one.
we had just about every entity you could think of that even remotely could add something to the conversation.
National Weather Service.
Right. We had
TEMA.
Army Corps of Engineers,
Yeah.
just several. So we had that initial meeting, and we showed the films and showed what had taken place 2 times now here. And so we have had. I was in another meeting week before last, and this time it was with representatives from the Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay.
But and we actually took them on a tour to see some of the things, and I think some light bulbs came on with some of those engineers when they saw the lay of the land and some possibilities.
It's a little harder to ignore
Yeah.
it when you're laying eyes on it.
Yeah, it is. So the first thing we have to do is put together $75,000, because that's what it's going to take to come up with a beginning engineering plan that
Okay.
we can take to the various sources for funding. And we're not talking about $400,000 or $500,000. We're talking about millions,
Yeah.
millions of dollars ultimately that
Yeah.
it will take to do a true stormwater mitigation.
Yeah.
Have they done even a estimated amount of water that's coming off the mountains now?
I haven't heard that figure,
Okay.
but everybody says, "Well, go up there and sue somebody. Go up there and sue somebody." And of
All
course
right, God.
that's your
Yeah.
but that's your first inclination, because a lot of people feel that a lot of that is because of wood that's been taken out and hasn't been restored, and rock harvesting. A lot of people feel that that's part of this tsunami issue. Now, I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm just telling you that that's a consensus. But at the same time, that has been categorized as business. It's been categorized as not really farming, but things of that nature. That
Right.
apparently with
Just
the
being
legislature,
able to skate around
Yeah,
whatever.
right?
Well,
Apparently with the
but
legislature, it's categorized.
Yeah, but that's one. I know a lot of times larger metropolitan areas, when a business comes in to file a permit or something to open a business, that's a huge issue that metropolitan areas face, displacing water. If you pave a parking lot or you pave 3 acres that was never paved before, you're moving that water off those 2 acres
That's right.
somewhere else, and it's got to somewhere's got to compensate for
Yeah.
it.
Right, because it's
You
not
know?
gonna soak in
No.
concrete or pavement.
I mean,
That water's-
they do
it's gotta be put
permeable
somewhere.
surfaces, permeable dirt.
Yeah.
but,
And those, every inch of that area down there is going to go through some amount of evaluation and testing and so on
man.
to see. So we're on something that's going to be several years probably,
Sure,
and several $1 million. But
you got to start.
But we owe it. We owe it to the younger ones to get a plan. I
Absolutely.
feel very,
The
very
future.
mandated as mayor that I've got to stick this out, and I've got to do what I have to do leadership wise to get a plan and get a program going, because we owe this to them. We have to do that.
Yeah.
We can't just walk on and say, "Well, hey, good luck." Good
Hope
luck.
you have
Good
the
luck
pass
down
the
the-
buck.
idea.
Pass it on
good
down a
luck
couple of years.
down the line. See if you can figure it out. So people go around and particularly in a political climate, so they'll go around and they might tell people, well, if I'm whatever, councilman or mayor or whatever, I'm gonna put you, I'm gonna dig a big hole out here and put you just a little pond down here and do this, that, and so on. Well, we are very, very restricted in that
Yep.
sort of thing now.
Laws of unintended
and you do that there.
consequences.
What's going to happen right down there? And when it puddles and flows, one of the worst places that I have seen in these two floods is right next door to me.
Oh, that's right.
My neighbor's house is kind of they have a basement, but it's a usable basement. It's like a den or something.
Right.
And somehow the water, I live at 508 Holly, so 5th Street, somehow along the way the water was turned years ago, the flow of the water, and it goes into an empty lot that is actually in not a parsonage, but a house that belongs to First Baptist Church.
Oh,
And then there's an empty lot and that belongs to my neighbor right there. So that water goes down in that big lot. But then when that big lot fills up, it comes over our alley, our little road. We have a dip in our alley, and it comes over that road and it goes straight into my neighbor's yard.
Wow.
And the first flood we had in his house, it was literally chest high.
In the basement.
In the house of his den and so on. It's a two-story deal,
Goodness.
and it was actually chest high, and it was pretty high this time. And he happened to be out of town. I didn't know it, and I went over there just screaming, "Are you home? Are you home?" Uh-oh. Are we off?
I don't know.
We'll just keep talking
Well,
like
anyway, and so and I didn't know where he was, but I realized I didn't hear his little dogs barking, so I sort of figured out he could be,
Out of
with
town.
family out of
Yeah.
town
Yeah.
and all of that. But yes, I have learned quite a bit about water and the damage that
far
it
more
that
than
it
you
can
ever
do.
wanted
Yeah.
to.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah. Well, we had a flood like this, but it was 100 years ago.
Really?
Well,
It was truly a 100-year flood.
And
then we had another one.
Nashville, wasn't it in the 2013 flood
Mm-hmm.
event here that Nashville had a 500-year flood
Mm-hmm.
event?
They
So-
had one prior to that because the mayor of Franklin, I think it's Franklin, he's now in the governor's cabinet, and he came over when we had this first flood. He came over in 2013.
Right.
He came over and he told me he saw the immediate pictures that we had, and I never will forget it. He was sitting in there in that room, in the boardroom, and he said, "This is just like what we went through in Franklin.
Wow.
It's just
Wow.
like this, and what Nashville went through."
Nashville had a flood a couple of years ago.
I was
Yeah.
thinking
Pretty bad.
They
About
had
the
one.
same
They
time,
had,
wasn't it?
they had one. Well, I know they had one prior to
Was it?
2013. I think 11 or 12
Was it
was
then?
one he was making
I remember
reference
it was
to.
huge,
It was
yeah.
horrible. Remember, it got to Opryland,
Yeah.
Yeah.
where he is,
Opryland,
Hotel and Opry Mills,
It's
and all of that.
unbelievable.
If you're wondering what just happened and why we faded out for a second, we had a little brownout over here, so
We have no clue what happened.
we have no clue if you can hear us or not.
That happens when the temperature gets high and everybody has their air conditioning on
Yeah.
at
Yeah,
the
well,
same time.
today is the day to have it on. I
Yeah.
tell you,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
because it is. We've already talked about that, but terribly hot.
I think we both live in Jasper. I've lost power twice in 12 hours for better than an hour.
Well, I didn't have power last night for a couple of hours, but of course, Sequatchie Valley Electric, they were there. Johnny on the
Yeah.
spot had it back on.
Yeah.
And they always
Yeah,
are.
we're
This
fortunate.
morning, it went off about 5:30.
Yeah.
But it was back on, I think, about 7. So I don't know if
Yeah.
that's doing some maintenance work. Or
Well, I can tell you that given I was trying to cook breakfast at around 5:30,
is that
I
one of the 3
noticed.
meals you cook a week? Or?
Well, if I'm going
you
to
good
eat
at it?
breakfast, I have to
Okay,
cook it.
all right.
My wife works and she says, "Good for you."
Yeah, cook what you want.
We're talking about cooling off. The park pool's open.
Oh,
in
that's
South
right.
Pittsburg.
Oh, is it
We have a
really?
pool open, yeah.
And,
yeah, we have a pool
Tuesday to
open.
Saturday.
It's Tuesday through Saturday. I think it opens about 10 maybe and closes about 5, something like that.
And now can people still rent that in the evenings for
I
events?
think so. You have to schedule it
Yeah.
and hire a lifeguard to be there. I mean, that used to be the drill.
Right.
But yeah,
They do that
it's-
through
it's
Parks
open.
Department. Call them if they have questions.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you would just call City Hall or just call City Hall and see. But yeah, it's open. And, you know, that pool, that's the one I swam in when I was a kid.
I remember going to many birthday parties down there.
Yeah. And back then they had a high
Now
dive.
he wants to have his birthday there.
Well,
Well,
that's an idea.
August 30th.
Yeah, they used to have a high dive and all that back then. And
Yeah,
people
write that
show
down.
off.
Get my gift.
People would show off.
Really?
And mine's the 28th, right before his. You need
Oh,
to
wow.
know,
Okay.
if you need to know.